before we start today, so before we start today, I just want to say that
Sir,
yes,
Sir, your voice is very faint.
yes, sir.
is it okay now? Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, better.
So before we start today, I want to say that we'll keep the three tests, the three major class tests during that scheduled slots in the academic calendar. Okay, and in between, I might take, obviously with prior notification, some minor quiz. Okay, so that sorts it out. So the first class test will be between 6th and 10th of September. I'm not uh, sending a separate email or dates for this because it's already in the academic calendar. So between 6 and 10, one day we'll have a test of 6th and 10th of September, 4 and 8 of October, and 15 to 20 of November. Now, during that 15 to 20 November, we also have the presentation, the assignment presentation. And from next week onwards, not from this week we have just started. In fact, we have just started giving some overview, holistic view of the issues. So from next week onwards, out of these four sessions, we have sessions on mm when do we have our sessions? One in Tuesday, right? Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, this first lecture will have regular lectures. The second lecture of Friday from 10 to 11, that slot will keep for doubt clearing, certain tutorial, maybe a quiz, all those stuff. Not today, but next Friday onwards. So that's I wanted to say before the lecture. So if you have any observations, you may think about it and email me. But uh, yes,
So, will the quizzes be graded or ungraded?
which one? Not graded, obviously graded.
Cool.
Remember, I said, no? Take for example, if I take three tests, class tests, the tests will vary in terms of marks. Do not think what are marks because marks can always be normalized between to a particular number, rounded up to a particular number. But time is more important. So the tests will be 1 hour long. The quiz will be about 10 to 15 minutes. So you can understand the what I can say weightage of quiz vis-a-vis tests. But all will add up to 50% of weightage. And again, I'm repeating the quiz that I intend to take, part of continuous evaluation, is proposed, not necessarily it's a fixed thing. We might end up taking a couple of quizzes here and there. We might not take it as well. Depends on how things are proceeding. Because for every batch, the speed is different. Okay. Now, so let's start. So can you see the slide externality is partial equilibrium?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, this particular slide or this particular lecture uh, might take 40-45 minutes, if not more. Now, this portion will be more helpful to non-economic students. And for economic students, this will be a little bit of a brush up. Okay. And that's why I started with partial equilibrium. Now, the simple question that we start with is a scenario. And the scenario is that your workplace is sufficiently far that you need to drive down from your home. Now, the question that we'll start with, remember I said I'll start with a scenario and then talk about the theory to plug it into the scenario or the example. Now, the question is, what is the cost of driving down to workplace from your home? Now, there can be two types of costs involved. One is the internal cost, which you can immediately, to some extent, measure. Take, for example, the time that you spend driving. So, if you understand, or you can attach a value to the time that you spend, then you exactly know what is the cost, the time cost. More obvious will be the fuel that you spend. Or the tolls that you pay on the way. A little less, but again, you can calculate it, is the wear and tear of your car, the depreciation of the car. The more you drive, there is more depreciation. So, even that is measurable. How? Take, for example, in the Indian context, uh, how many of you drive cars? Can you raise hand? Or you don't have to drive a car. Have you seen insurance papers for your car or your parents' car? Yeah, 4 hands I can see. Now remember, 5 hands. Oh, lot. Good. So if you see the insurance policy of a car, you find there is something called IDV. And that value comes down from 1 year to second year to third year. So every year you spend, the IDV comes down, which means there is a standardized method used by the insurance company to give the present value of the vehicle. And they calculate it on the basis of whether you have any claim. If you have any claim, that means you had certain accidents or something, or the kilometers that you have driven. And there are some other parameters which this insurance company take into consideration while insuring the car. So these things are measurable. So these are internal. Now there are certain external costs. Remember, I said that externality is something which you cannot capture by market prices. Look, the internal things you can, including the cost of your time, that the opportunity cost of your time. If you have kept a driver, how much you would have spent? Or you can think it, if I do not drive, if I live just next to my office, how many more hours I could have worked and earned money. So that the opportunity cost you can calculate. So these are all internal. You can measure these things with certain market prices. Now there are costs which are completely external. What is the cost that you impose through congestion to other travelers? Do you ever think of that? No, because you do not bear it. So the moment you take your car out, you add to the traffic. And somehow you add at least time spent during driving for others. So these are external costs. So if someone is more interested in the nitty-gritties of these costs and how to measure them, one can refer to this study by Herbert Moring. Okay. Now look what he found. He found what is peak hour? Peak hour is when most of the people are commuting. So take for example, the office opens at 9. So most probably between 7:30 and 9 will be a peak hour. And the office closes at 5. So 5 to 6:30 will be another peak hour. So that's what we call peak hour. Peak hour means the time of the day or times or periods of the day during which the number of vehicles on road are max. So now the study finds that average peak hour trip imposes costs on other travelers equal to roughly half of the cost directly experienced by those taking the average trip. So suppose you take your car out during a peak hour or rush hour and you somehow calculate your internal cost to be 100. So roughly around $50 you're imposing on others. Now, how to measure these external costs? If I remember in the first lecture, uh, some one of you said that yeah, things are measurable like pollution, everything. There are certain standardized ways of measuring. And I said that, yeah, those are best approximates, but exact we cannot. Now, there is a range of these costs depending on how you are measuring it. But those measurements are not a part of this course, will be more into those will be parts of courses more dealing with environmental economics or resource economics, those papers. But depending on how many parameters you include, this particular cost, that the external cost one motorist is adding to others, this can vary between 2 billion pounds to 28 billion pounds. So 2 billion pounds is only when you include cost of delays. If everyone hits the road, it becomes Bangalore. And everyone hits the road and everyone honks, then it becomes Kolkata. So if I include noise, pollution, everything, it can go up to the figure can go up to 28 billion pounds annual, obviously annual. Now look, this is a sufficiently big number. So when I am taking a decision whether to drive down, I am considering only the internal costs, not even this 2 billion pounds that I impose on others in the sense of delays or traffic snarls. Forget about this 28 billion pounds. Now, this is a classic case of externality, negative externality. And you will understand there is even one more uh, breakup. It will say negative consumption externality. So, if someone internalizes this cost, he will take his car out far less than he actually does. So, there is inefficient resource allocation resulting from this externality. Now, there are two types of markets which leads to, in general, inefficient allocation of resources. And if you remember, We economists, we do what? Somehow or the other, we try to allocate resources efficiently. So we are deviating from our actual target because either we have some markets that have externalities or the markets with public goods. Public goods, I'm coming a little later. We'll start with externality first. So if I want to give a proper definition of externality, just have a look on the first paragraph, definition. The externality is the effect of any decision or action of an agent. Agent means economic agent, which has a bearing on the well-being of others. And these effects are not reflected by market price. So it can arise due to the action of one consumer or a producer, and the effect is on others, and these are not reflected by market prices. So if you remember the concepts of consumer surplus, producer surplus, which I think is quite simple, rather absolutely rudimentary when we analyze the static demand supply framework and assume perfect competition. You remember? So you have it's a demand curve, supply curve, we have a price line. So the triangle above the price line, below the demand curve is the consumer surplus, and the other triangle above the supply curve, below the price line, the consumer producer surplus. Right. And under perfect competition, you have price equal to marginal cost. So it's absolute technical efficiency is there, all those things. So what we know from perfect competition, and that is why I requested non-economic students to have a look into the market chapter of Pindick and Rubenfeld. So if you have done it, it's fine. If you have not done it, just have a look. Then these things will become even more clear. Now, in perfect competition, we assume those are private goods, perfectly competitive market. Like all markets are perfectly competitive. Which are the all markets? Suppose production uses two factors of production, one capital, one labor. So capital market is perfectly competitive, labor market is perfectly competitive. If there is a raw material other than labor and capital, some natural resources, those markets are perfectly competitive. The final output market, the commodity market, is competitive, and there are a host of consumers who are price takers and they behave competitively. So there are a lot of assumptions, right? We just skimmed through these things. We do not actually internalize all these assumptions. The moment you start internalizing these assumptions or think about these assumptions more clearly, you'll understand that we are far, far away from the real life. But this is very important because this is the premise. And based on these definitions, these scenarios, we try to relax certain assumptions, drop certain assumptions, and try to make the model more and more close to the real life scenario. Now, in the perfect competition, there is no loss of efficiency because the because there is neither a public good, there is nor an externality. Now, the moment the social and private values differ, it will lead to what we said last day, market failure. It will lead to deadweight loss. And the equilibrium, which is achieved by the market mechanism, is not economically efficient. I'll give you exact one example and one simple picture which will make this statement absolutely clear. Before doing that, let's categorize. So the types of externalities. So there are four, two from consumption side, two from production side. And of these two, one is positive, one is negative. And what are the examples that you can think of? Positive production externality, which means the moment I produce something, the value of it, the social value of it, is far more than the private value, which means you are take for another, I have given laser technology as an example here, the LASIK technology. So the person who has produced the technology has sold it to a particular company or use a patent right to earn money. So those who are using laser pays a money or pays a price which best approximates the private market equilibrium, where the benefit of it percolates far down. One more example which will be very, very relevant at this point of time is you pay seven, I do not know, there might be different prices in different parts of the country, but in general in West Bengal, if you want to go and take a Covishield vaccine, one dose with GST and everything, it comes at 780 rupees if you take it from a private entity. Now you can think that 780 is the market clearing price for Covishield, one dose Covishield. So I am willing to pay 780 rupees to get myself vaccinated. But the moment I take a vaccine, my private benefit is far less than the social benefit. Why? Because I am consuming the vaccine. The moment I consume the vaccine, I not only protect myself, I protect everyone with whom I come in touch with. It's not only that, suppose there are 10 people in a village. There are 10 people in a village. If 9 people out of 10 takes the vaccine, then the 10th one does not require it at all. Because there is no other person who can give him the infection, transmit him the infection. So now look, the more and more the people get vaccinated, more and more safety, probability of safety is accrued to those who are left unvaccinated. Education. You pay semester fees, get a degree. So you're basically consuming the service offered by IIT Kharagpur. You have your private benefit. What is the social benefit? Much higher. Higher than your private benefit. Similarly, you have negative externalities. From the production side, you can think of uh, fly ash as a byproduct. Consumption negative, you can think of driving an automobile. So pollution. So these costs of these negative environmental externalities only from 6 major air pollutants like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur oxide, and those things is $184 billion. This was calculated in 2002, and it was 15% of the US GDP. So we're not talking about insignificant numbers. We're talking about significant numbers. Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, why can't vaccine be a positive production?
No, because no. Look, today I'm giving you certain examples. I'm not saying the other way around. Because look, what is the production externality and what is a consumption externality? A consumption externality comes when someone consumes it. By mere production of the vaccine, if no one uses it. So the benefit of the vaccine, the social benefit of the vaccine lies not when the vaccine is produced, but when the vaccine is injected or consumed. Take, for example, the laser. Those who invented laser technology, it opened up actually a Pandora's box. Because with the same technology, you are doing retina operations, LASIK eye surgeries, you are doing different type of industrial fabrication, you're putting laser into reading of computer disks, hard disks, compact disks. So different types of production starts. Who gets benefited from another production process? The vaccine as an example of production externality, positive production externality can be in a different way. The Serum Institute of India was already producing vaccines. So they had a production setup to replicate a vaccine and produce in batches. So they already had an infrastructural advantage over others. So the moment they received the AstraZeneca, whatever this pronunciation is, thing, it was easier for them to replicate. So the production setup of the first, but it is not helping any other production process.
Sir, so we can say that the production which triggers the production of many products that will ultimately benefit the masses more will be a production externality, and a product which will directly like benefit the masses upon the first consumption, that will be the consumption externality, positive consumption externality.
Uh, to some extent, if you ask me whether this is a very correct definition or not, I will say it is fine, but it is more, sorry to use this term, a journalistic term approach.
Okay, sir.
Because, no, look, there is no problem in it. Because what you are saying is not incorrect.
Yes, sir.
What? In every discipline, which department you are from?
So economics.
Oh, you are from economics itself.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So you have not studied externality somewhere else before?
No, sir.
Oh my God. Why? It should
So
be a
we,
part of microeconomics somewhere.
no, sir, it wasn't there.
Okay. Then I had this because I looked into this existing syllabus, right? Before we start everything. So I had a very strong notion that externality at least has been done somewhere before.
So
No,
maybe,
sir, we haven't studied.
Okay, yes, there was
So
someone
maybe
so
who
may-
it was in the syllabus, but it wasn't covered because of
covered,
the
covered. Okay,
time
okay, right. Okay,
constraint.
okay. So it's good. So this particular thing is new to for everyone. That's good. I thought this is brush up for economic students. Now look, uh, let's start. So let me spend a little more time because these are very intrinsic. These core ideas or concepts are intrinsic to the course that we have at hand. Let's start with the most simple example of externality: negative and consumption. And give me the most commonly used example called smoking. When someone smokes, he purchases, say, a pack of cigarette with a MRP. And suppose that is obviously within his maximum willingness to pay schedule. So the market clears. So if I'm looking only at the cigarettes market, I can have a simple partial equilibrium, demand curve, supply curve, and an equilibrium price and quantity. So there is no problem. And my decision of smoking includes the benefit and cost of smoking. I do not know about the benefits, but costs you can all think. One, the price you pay. Second, the damage that you do to your health. Simple. Now, the moment you start smoking, your friend and family in and around you, or a place where you smoke where there are other people, you are damaging their health also through passive smoke. They have not bought. They were, suppose there is a non smoker. The non smoker is not a part of that cigarette market. He does not want to buy cigarettes. He does not want to smoke. He did not participate in that market mechanism at all. So the cigarette prices are not relevant to him. But the moment a smoker comes in touch of you and you are a non-smoker, you have health hazards. So suppose I am a smoker, so my consumption of a cigarette damages your health, and this cost which is borne by you is not reflected in the market for cigarettes.
Sir,
Is yes, please go ahead.
sir, how do we just categorize this as negative? if someone smokes,
Mhm,
it has negative effects on the people around him.
mhm,
That you just said, जैसे कि like
mhm,
passive smoking and all.
mhm.
But doesn't it have some positive aspects if we take into account for the people who are making, let's say, nicotine patches? If people don't smoke, they don't make उनका business नहीं है. So it is
Look, Faisal. This is exactly the thing. I am talking about the cost incurred by a non-smoker who is not a part of the cigarette market.
okay.
Suppose I smoke, I participate in the cigarette market, and the producer, the seller, the distributor, whoever, everyone participates there. So the moment I purchase a cigarette, suppose you are a seller, okay? The moment
Okay.
you price the cigarette, the labor cost, capital cost, your profit, distributors cost, everything is taken care and is come to me. And trust me, the government also enjoys a lot because the tax on these items like cigarettes, alcohol, these are very high in across all the countries, almost. Now, those people, look, I am not, look, again, let me be very clear about this course. I will point about only the economic parts. I am not a sociologist who can talk about the social impact, neither a health official who will give lectures of uh, the bad things about smoking. No, neither am a politician who supports the tobacco lobby because my political expenditure is being funded by the tobacco lobby. In fact, just for the sake of fun, and let's keep learning a fun exercise. I always believe in that. That's how I was myself was being taught, and I really appreciate that mode of teaching. And I am sorry to say, but this type of mode of teaching is very rare in India. But learning should be fun, and things are opening up a little bit here and there, but the fun aspect is going on. So let me give you all a link or a description. YouTube search so long back, there used to be a sitcom called Yes Minister. The first season was Yes Minister, and the next season it was like the minister has become prime minister, so it was Yes Prime Minister. It was very famous. Not as famous as Friends, uh, but yes, this is the most famous British sitcom. It talks about the bureaucratic structure faced by the politician and the IAS type of people, the administrative services people. So there is an episode called Smoke Screen. Watch it. And in fact, at the end of the day, and it was absolute sarcasm, like it was a very sarcastic, caustic type of a series. So they are making fun of the political system all the time. So it was a very serious sarcasm sitcom. So have watch, you'll understand a lot about this business, the tobacco industry type of business, and how politicians get benefited, how everything gets. In fact, Faisal, I can give you one more thing. The money raised by, in fact, I'm borrowing it from Yes Minister, that the money raised by the tax on cigarettes is used for the treatment of non-smokers in government hospitals. So in that case, the smokers are big time donors. So that's how, in fact, that type of sarcasm was there. So no, if you stop the cigarette industry, then as you pointed out, a lot of people will go out of business. But I'm not bothered about it. I'm bothered about someone, a non-smoker, who is not part of this market. I do not fly. I am completely averse to flying. So whether Air India gets disinvested or not is absolutely not interesting to me. I'm least interested in it. But look, whether Air India gets disinvested or not does not affect my life. So now I am a non-smoker. I do not like smoking. I understand the health hazards of smoking. And at the same time, I do not participate in that cigarettes tobacco market, neither as a producer nor as a consumer. But still, the moment a smoker comes and smokes in front of me, I do incur a cost through passive smoking. And there is no market price, the market for tobacco or cigarettes, that does not take care. The price quantity mechanism there does not take care of my health hazard, who is a non participant in that market. So that is the only point I'm talking about. I do not bother whether someone drives a car or not. The only thing that bothers me that when I'm leaving from home to office, okay, by the way, Avinav, you have raised a hand. Sorry, I did not notice. You wanted to say something?
Oh, sir, I just had one question about
Yeah,
this
sure. Then you
cigarette.
ask it. Then you ask it because most of the time I do not look into the screen.
Okay, sir. So, like, basically, you are saying that, okay, I get the point that the non-smoker is affected and his healthcare cost will not be reflected into the market through
Right.
the demand supply mechanisms. So,
Correct.
but even the smoker, how would his health cost be reflected in the market? Like, how is that coming as a part of the market?
Look, Avinav, this is your personal choice whether to smoke or not, depending on the legal age of smoking. Suppose the legal age of smoking is 18. Now, when you become an adult, you take a call whether I should smoke or not. The problem is you already know the health hazards. So when you make a decision of whether to purchase it or not, you have somewhere internalized it. Most of the time what you do, अरे एक लगाने से क्या होगा, कुछ नहीं होगा. So the probability of you getting a serious ailment is almost zero. And that is why you ignore that cost. So it comes in your own decision making of the participants of that market.
Excuse me, sir, I have a doubt.
Yes, Shachi.
Sir, in this example, I understand that we are speaking in terms of cost, that it's a negative consumption. But in the previous example where you talk about like a college degree, like how it's more positive, like socially, but not personally. So in that aspect, I'm not able to understand that uh, like what are the basis of judging this, that like which is more having a more social positive than a less personal. In this case, I understood this example like we're speaking in terms of cost, because the non-consumers are still paying the cost of like cost of not having a cigarette. So they are indirectly a part of that industry and they're paying that cost. But in that case, I'm not able to understand.
The education part you did not understand, right?
Yes, sir. And I have a second question also, that
Sure.
is this smoking example a positive production?
Positive production externality.
Yes, sir.
Why? Why do you
Uh,
think that?
so because it's like same, speaking in terms of cost, the production people are like, as compared to the consumers, all the producers are able to get the cost, like are able to get money out of this industry. That's why.
That you do in everything. Even the laptop makers are doing that. Vegetable growers are getting that. But you eating a orange does not benefit me, neither harms me. Your action does not have a bearing on the other person. You
Negative
look,
production.
orange, take for example oranges. You go purchase an orange, eat it. If you eat it, I'm not getting it. But if you eat it, I do not have anything positive, neither I have anything negative. Because you eating oranges next to me in a moving bus does not affect my health, does not affect my mental being, does not affect me in any way. But the moment you start smoking, that smoke comes to my nose. I inhale that smoke. I cannot help. I cannot say that no, I will not inhale this, but I do not have a choice. So oranges remain pure private good without any externality. So I'm just trying to clear the doubt of the consumption part. Now let's come to education. You are an educated person. If required, if required, you can, and I'm just giving a hypothetical scenario. I'll be giving a lot of scenarios to all of you, okay? Because I do not believe myself that you cannot take a representative individual who behaves similarly with everyone else. I'm not that type of economist who believes in that. I always believe that my economic decision making will be quite different from your economic decision making. So I believe more into this domain, what we call behavioral economics. And so I give examples. So take for example, please raise hand, and there is no shame in it. Who, anyone from you, whose say grandparent, grandfather or grandmother does not know how to issue a bank check, or unable given age or everything. Look, if Shachi, you are educated, you can fill that up. You can issue, you can guide. If you are uneducated, you cannot help. How
Yes.
many of you take, just for the fun of it, when you know free time, teach ABCD or something to the maid's kid who accompanies the maid? Look, hands raising. That is why education is a positive consumption externality. We do impart partially, knowingly, unknowingly, education to others. all the time. Education is not only the qualification or the degree that you have. Your degree is not shared by anyone. But the learning that you have gone through, you always share it. Knowingly, unknowingly. That is why it's possible. And you do not charge your grandfather when you fill a blank check for him. That is, there is no price attached to the service that you're providing. You're doing it for free. Anyone from Kerala? Anyone from Kerala, the state of Kerala, in this classroom? My God, there's no one from Kerala. In general, we do get a couple. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So, no, it's very amazing that there is no one from Kerala this time.
Maybe maybe from the south, I guess.
No, I'm specifying it Kerala because because I have stayed in Kerala for 7 years and I have driven down all the southern states
I'm
myself for.
Kerala, but I'm not native to Kerala.
So, do you visit Kerala?
Yes, sir. Quite often.
How many times and which part, may I ask?
Oh, Kozhikode, Calicut.
Excellent place. The only thing problematic is the airport. I always find it scary. Now, because it's a tabletop, na, the airplane might skid anytime.
Yes,
Few
sir.
days back, there was an accident.
Yes, sir.
And one of my friend who was attached to NIT Kozhikode got really scared. Like he was waiting in the terminal when he saw the accident happen. So now thing is, in Kerala, you will not find people honking on the roads. Never.
True, sir. And lane discipline also is very well followed there.
Very well followed. And do you know why that happens? Because of the level of education in that state. It's a very high degree of education and discipline. Suppose you're driving, your car got broke or something, or you're an office driver, you just missed the gear, could not adjust the clutch and gear combination. People will almost stay for 2 minutes without honking and then they will come up and say, "Can I help?" Now think of this in Delhi. Forget about Delhi, Kolkata, Kharagpur. Education. The education in that state is nothing new. It started long back under one king when Kerala used to be a princely state. They were like Trivandrum was a state, Kozhikode, Calicut was a state, and there was another. And the rest was, in fact, a part of Madras presidency. So the Travancore or Trivandrum, during that time, they started that education, mass education, which has continued for ages. And that's what gets reflected in the behavior of Malayalis. So, healthcare and education are the two sectors where the external positive, positive externality is really, really high. And that is why we'll find all the development economists across the globe always requesting this country governments to spend more on education and health. The rest will pick up. If you're healthy or educated, you can fend for yourself.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Shivam.
Sir, are there always, I mean, just the pros of being educated, not the cons? Because I personally feel that uh, being like studying more and like being more educated is bringing me like my emotions are getting sort of I can't express my emotions well. So that's one thing I think education brings in most of the people because they
Shivam, this is something I think
mm,
where
that
I
makes
might.
people more practical and they can't
I
share
understand.
their
No, no. I understand. I understand the problem that you are raising. Now, there are two ways of answering it. One is I can answer to this problem at a personal level. So I will always say that talk to your friends. I personally do not believe that friends are competitors. If you keep thinking that I am educated, I'm getting more educated, I'm into that competition mode, I need to get through this, I have to outcompete my classmates, outcompete, outshine my friends, then you are getting alienated. So that's a personal way of thinking. Absolutely personal, I might be grossly wrong, completely wrong, I might be. So that is one thing where I will suggest that you talk out to your friends, to your family. The more you will talk, the less will be this alienation. And in fact, that will help you a lot in the long run. Uh, and this help is beyond the professional help that I get from all the colleagues that I have. Because I always treat my colleagues as friends, never as competitors. Yesterday, the second year batch, 11 joined from other departments to this economics course. At the last moment, all the HS breath were full. I am the faculty advisor. I just called up a couple of them. Depending on the personal relationship I have, I called up. And the moment I called up, these faculties they agreed, readily agreed, and take took up this additional 11. So it was a professional thing, but done because of the friendship that I have with them. And I am here only for the last 2 years. I already have friends. Friends mean serious friends across all the departments. So the more you make friends, the more you make merry. I'm telling you, Shivam, that will help a lot. Make friends. It will help you out a lot in long run.
But I get the point that I should make more friends. But what about the family? Because being educated means you are being more practical, and that sort of brings about the gap in you
Okay.
can say yes.
That's what I said. Keep on
Mm.
communicating. But Shivam, can we talk about this thing, this portion, in a one-to-one frame? Because
Yes,
this is not relevant. The other part which is relevant, as you pointed out, one might think the negative externalities of education. I give you one example and you will understand what I'm talking. You pay your semester fees. And what is your semester fee, Shivam? I do not know.
sir, it's 1,23,000.
As semester fee in IIT on an average. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is the average semester fee that an IIT student pays?
Sir, maybe around 80,000.
80,000. Fine. So what is the monthly? A little more than 15 into 6. Make it 15,000 a month, right?
Yes, sir.
And how many students are there in one particular batch? Say for
Sir, in
example,
there are
say
50.
for example 50, on an average 50. So 15,000 into 50 students. That does not even cover the salary of 2 professors. Forget about the running cost, operation costs. So what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the huge amount of subsidy that is given by the Union of India in your education. So the cost of educating you is much higher than the price that you pay. Now, there is no problem in that. The problem is after you get your degree, you leave India and serve other countries. This is a classic case of what we call brain drain. So the taxpayers' money spent on your education with a view that you will become more educated and help the growth of the economy of India. But you leave India and you serve a different economy who has spent zero in your education. The classic example of this phenomenon is Jamaica. 80% of high skilled, high educated Jamaicans are in the US. And Jamaica is still a low income economy. So that is one negative part of higher education, which there is a proper literature in economics. But this is not a personal view. This is an established, factually correct opinion. So that is one negative externality of the subsidy that went out would have been used for a lot of things. But it's not recoverable. So, but yes, for India, this is a very low amount. So we are not bothered about it because a lot of you stay in India, contribute to the society, contribute to the economy. A lot of you, even after going to US, sent substantial amounts back to India as repatriation, remittances. That also helps the economy a lot. Only a very handful leaves the country forever. So India is not a big, for India, brain drain is not that big a problem. There are the countries like Jamaica, other East European countries, Turkey. These are countries which actually faces a lot of problem. Mexico. Yeah, I think
So,
someone
so
is.
this
Sir?
loss of subsidy.
Hmm.
So this loss of subsidy, like, okay, it's a negative case. Is it production or consumption?
No, it is what I will say opportunity cost of production.
Okay, like the lost opportunity.
Lost opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else?
So,
Someone else was also
yes,
trying to
so I have two questions. Like, if we are consuming some good for our personal benefit, then we are returning, like we eat fruits, then we are becoming healthy, right? So it will be
right.
positive consumption because we are giving back to the economy. If we are healthy, we'll perform well and will
Again,
contribute to.
again, Jyoti, if you perform well, you get more salary, not me.
Okay, so anything for personal benefit will not come in the externality. It will be
No,
opportunity
no,
cost.
no, no. Yes, it will be opportunity cost. Yes, correct.
So one more
Sir-
doubt, like production of petroleum products. So there are many byproducts in it. So where to like there is
Those are
this.
sold again. Those are again sold. They have a proper market. But
So it
take
will
for
be positive
example,
production or negative?
no. There, if I'm taking, I'm producing. What India does. India imports a lot of crude and natural oil, puts them into the refineries. The refineries process them, produces petroleum for consumption, and a lot of byproducts which are also sold. There is no externality in it. The externality is the pollution which is being done during this production process is not captured by the prices of petrol, natural or crude oil, natural gas or crude oil, petroleum byproducts. None of these prices, none of these markets consider the pollution that is being generated when these factories operate, these refineries operate.
So it will be negative production, right?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Take for example, if the refinery takes care to deal with the pollutants, the sewage, then fine. So these costs can be internalized, but most of the time the producers do not, because the moment, suppose you have to uh, create a sewage tank and process it to remove the pollutants from it, which is a significant cost. So that will be a fixed cost in your production process. That cost will be
Okay, so
internalized in the pricing of the product. Suppose there is an air filter which you can purchase and use in the chimneys such that polluting smoke does not go up in the atmosphere. But the moment you, as a producer, you install that, that comes into either your fixed cost or maybe your variable cost in some cost structure. So when you price your output, that cost will get internalized in the price. So there is no externality. The moment you do not follow any of these, just say, okay, pollution ho raha hai, hone do. Leave it like that. I'm not going to pay for it. If I want to pay for it, I have to increase the price. The moment I increase the price, my competitors will have edge on me. So I cannot do that. So ये सोच के मैंने क्या किया? What I did, I completely started dumping the sewage in the Bangalore lake. But it's a health hazard for all the people. And not prices, no prices reflect that cost. So if there are certain costs which are internalized, then there is no externality. Two polluting farms producing the same thing. One takes care of the sewage, cleans it. Other one just dumps it. The one which dumps it is a clear case of externality. The one which treats it, removes the pollutants, is internalized in its cost structure. So there is no case of externality.
Okay, sir, got it. Thank you, sir. So it will be negative production if they doesn't take care of this
Exactly.
process.
Yes.
Sir,
So,
I had a
Yes,
sir,
please,
I
one by
had a
one.
doubt. Sir, this
Who is this?
smoking.
Shalmali. Okay.
Shalmali. So the case of smoking, we discussed it with respect to the passive smoker people, smoking people. So, but as we discussed, like if we would have seen the point of view of people involved in producing the tobacco or the cigarettes, then it has a positive impact on them. So, can we say that the activity of smoking has a positive impact on certain people, and means it will have a different type of externality for different part of society?
This is exactly what Faisal said. So I'm repeating my answer. I am a producer of cigarettes. If you smoke, only then I can sell it and can make profit. But being a seller or being a consumer of cigarettes or tobacco products, we have entered the market with concerned decision making. I incur a cost while producing, you incur a cost while consuming. What about Shivam, who does not smoke at all? I'm not asking you, and I'm not giving that lecture. I'm not into moral policing. I'm talking about the pure economic part of it. So, as you was pointing out, that if you stop smoking, then I will go out of business. But the moment you start smoking, I'm into business. So, this is positive for me. No. Your choice of purchasing and my choice of selling gets reflected in the demand and supply curves and the equilibrium in that market.
Okay, sir.
Shivam,
So we
now,
see a overall perspective of it.
yes. Because the tobacco market does not consider, it considers whom? That market for tobacco? It considers only the sellers, distributors, and buyers of cigarettes and tobacco. It does not consider the non-tobacco users. The moment, and in fact, the producers are completely clean in the sense there is no pollution while producing it. So all the onus comes on the consumers, or in the sense, the smokers. Remember that movie? That movie, no, that became a big time hit few years back. Munna Bhai. Remember there was a scene called people using gutka and spitting on the road. So the gutka seller is completely unaware of who is spitting and not. I just spit anywhere I want, but I spit on your door. You neither sell gutka nor use gutka, but a gutka consumer continuously spits on your door. The gutka price does not include the cost of cleaning your door, which you do regularly. So this is a negative consumption experiment.
Okay,
The
sir.
moment you spit in a designated spot, neither the gutka seller is off, nor the gutka buyer is off, but at least your cost is completely taken care of. That is why in most European countries, like the leading 6 European countries like Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, France, Germany, and to some extent Spain and England, you have designated smoking points everywhere. So it's like telephone booths. Go inside, smoke, come out. You don't have to hamper the other people. So there are ways of internalizing this cost. If you do not internalize, then the externalities persist. Okay. I hope
Yes, sir.
Sir, I had
anyone.
a
Yes.
question.
Who is this?
Abhinav, sir.
Yes, Abhinav.
Sir, can we have a case wherein an externality is both positive and negative? Like, let's take the case that you were talking about yesterday, that is the flyover built on a highway next to a highway side town.
Mhm.
So that is both positive and negative, right? Like, positively speaking, it's going to reduce traffic, but negatively speaking, it's going to lead to increased pollution due to more people being attracted to that highway.
Uh, In that case, the person who is driving the car is creating pollution, not the highway. Logical. It's simple logic. I was just thinking the question that you asked. Take for example this vaccine industry itself. I do not know whether there are sewage good enough to be called pollution. There might be. So there might be a consumption, positive consumption externality and negative production externality in the same industry. It can be. Okay, let me move forward. Any questions so far?
So basically, our market is riddled with failures, right? Everything is an externality in our market.
And that is why, look, that is why I said in the beginning that most of us forget about non-economists. In fact, economists. Most of us we do not understand the assumptions that we make in our body. And we completely, in the most of the time, we just take it, okay, this is given, chalo. And it is absolutely not your fault. In fact, I can tell you noted microeconomic textbook which are completely wrong. I'll not say notion, but vision of the entire idea. In fact, there is a single question that I always keep on asking students, like when I teach advanced economic theory, that people talk about Marxian thought, leftist thought, Marx. What is the new thing did Marx say? Everyone says labor theory of value. I said, no, that's by Ricardo, long back, 1870. The only thing that Marx added was that there are two different individuals, two different categories of individuals. One who only gives labor and earn wage, another who owns capital and gets the rent out of it. That's the only thing Marx gave. And that model then gives you different results from the standard models. Why? The previous classical models, it all talked about all individual laborers are equal, alike, they have the same skill set, go and fetch the same wage rate. Who told you? All the farms are alike? No. Production processes within an industry across farms are different. But yes, we need to study this because to understand a complex system, first I need to understand the simple system. So that is why the representative individual approach is required to understand what happens when these individuals are different, have different marginal winnings to pay. So the demand curve for you is quite different for the demand curve for me. So what happens when the seller wants to sell to both you and me? He faces two different demand curves. And we'll see that. In fact, I was planning to do it today itself. Anyway, let's see. So yeah. So take for example, can you see this graph, simple graph? Is it visible? Negative externality and economic efficiency.
Yes, sir.
So the D curve, can you see the movement of the cursor when I move the cursor? Is it visible? The movement of the cursor?
It's lagging.
Lagging, but it's visible, right?
Yes.
So this D curve is a simple demand curve for a particular good. So it's a partial equilibrium framework, which means there is only one good. In the vertical axis, I have a price for the good. Horizontal axis, I have the quantity of the good. And this is the demand curve. Now, You have two curves, marginal private cost and you have a marginal social cost. I'm talking about negative externality, which means the cost, take for example, insert shade. Take for example a quantity as given by this vertical blue line. So I'm talking about for this quantity, the private cost should be lower than the social cost. And that is why this line MSC lies, marginal social cost curve lies above the marginal private cost. They're equal only when quantity is zero. The more quantity you produce, higher will be the gap between the social cost and the private cost. If you leave it to the market, so obviously the producer will take the marginal, the MPC curve or the market supply curve. Remember, the supply curve is that part of the marginal cost curve above the minimum point of your average cost curve. Remember cost chapter? If not, just have a look. So this is your supply curve, MPC equal to market supply. This is your demand curve. Leave it to Adam Smith. You get Q1, P1, right? But the moment there is a planner, social planner, there is a government, there is someone else who thinks, okay, now we're talking about a commodity which has negative externality. So it is the MSC, which is the marginal social cost curve, which is more relevant. So if I impose that, maybe through a tax or something, because if there is a negative externality, you tax the output. The moment you put a tax, the marginal MPC curve will pivot to MSC, which is the marginal social cost. And if I have this new thing, MSC and D, Q star would be the socially optimal quantity, P star will be the new price. The price is higher than the market price P1, quantity is lower than the market supply of equilibrium supply of Q1. Had there been no intervention. Now look, we will do these calculations from this very simple figure. Consumer surplus, producer surplus, externality, deadweight loss, all this. So let's look at consumer surplus. If Q1 P1 was the price, so there is no intervention. Then what is the consumer surplus? ABGK, right? This portion. Above P1, below D. ABGK, right? ABGK. If with intervention, above P star, below D, only A. Producer surplus without intervention, below P1, above MPC. EFRHN. EFRHN. With intervention, below P star, above MSC, BEL. Now look, what is the cost of externality? RGHKN. If I produce at Q1, charge P1 star, then this portion is the cost of externality. Now you add up consumer surplus, producer surplus. Now cost of externality we put negative. Now when you combine these two, consumer surplus plus producer surplus plus cost of externality, and the cost comes with a negative sign. So you get the net social benefit. And you'll find the net social benefit to be A plus B, because then E and F will come. This GK will cancel out here. RHN will cancel out N, and then minus N. AB plus E. Now look at this consumer surplus, producer surplus, cost of externality under the new equilibrium, P star Q star. A, consumer surplus, BEF, producer surplus, and then RHG, look, I'm producing at Q star. So the cost of externality, this Kn does not count anymore. So it's RHG only. Again, you do it, A plus B plus E plus. So the deadweight loss was M under equilibrium when I leave it to the market P1, Q1. And under social when optimal P star, Q star, it's 0. So the difference between the social optimal and the private optimal, consumers lose, producers B plus G minus N, B plus G minus N. G and N looks almost similar, so it's positive. External cost, in this case, you save because you reduce the cost of externality. And you remove the deadweight loss M. So the net social benefit difference is the F, which is equal to K plus F. Now look, with this very simple figure, you can see that if I leave it to the market, the outcome will be, or the equilibrium will be Q1, P1. You internalize this externality. Instead of marginal private cost, use marginal social cost. You have a different equilibrium P star, Q star. So this new equilibrium P star, Q star, which we call the socially optimal, is better than the private optimal P1, Q1 because of the deadweight loss M, which was present under the private equilibrium, which is not there under the social equilibrium. And the moment I say the deadweight loss vanishes, you can understand that the moment you control for negative externality, you try to internalize the negative externality, your economic efficiency is going to go up. If you leave it to the market, the deadweight loss M will there, and hence economic efficiency fails. Okay. Now look the possibility of the tax system. It's very simple again. You do what? You calculate P star, Q star using the MSC. Then just draw a parallel line cutting P star, Q star equilibrium parallel to the MPC by a lump sum tax, or this is what we call this ad valorem tax. You just shift up the MPC curve by an amount of tax. You end up in the same result. So this is how you bring in the tax structure to control for negative externality. The moment you want to take the car out, you have to pay an emission fee. And the calculation is even more simple. So I'm not explaining this figure anymore because it's clearly evident. If you have any questions, please ask. Okay, no question. Similarly, you can just compare with the figure you'll find. Now let's come to positive externality. Positive consumption externality. Here we do not have externality in the supply side. So you have a normal MC equal to supply curve. Yes. Someone wanted to say something. Someone wanted to say something. I could hear. Anyway, now look, as I said, your private benefit will be less than the social benefit under positive consumption externality. So the market demand curve will be a private benefit curve. But there is a social benefit. So you should consider a social benefit curve above your private benefit or market demand curve. So if you leave it to the market, what is happening? The supply curve and the private curve, P1, Q1. You internalize this externality. You accept there is positive externality and see how to add to the social benefit. So marginal economic benefit. Look, this MEB, this marginal economic benefit curve. Remember, I'm skipping certain portions which are like evident. That's why. MSB, marginal social benefit, is MPB, marginal private benefit plus marginal economic benefit. Now I've given an MEB curve like this. It's falling over quantity. Why? The first one getting vaccinated, the probability reduces by more than the last one getting vaccinated. Because the first one doing a good thing has higher marginal impact in the society than the last person. So remember that example, right? 10 people in the village, 9 getting vaccinated. 10th one does not need to take, but the 10th one also takes. So the benefit is the 10th person's benefit is his personal benefit because he has no other benefit. Because everyone was already vaccinated. He's not benefiting anyone else. So for the last unit, the marginal economic benefit is 0. So hence, by the same logic, if you go back, you'll find the first one, his economic benefit, his externality, his spillover is far, far greater. And that is why it's a falling curve. And then you add it up, you get a marginal social benefit curve. So you have a P star, Q star. If you consider the market supply and the social benefit curve. And you can do the same exercise of what are the costs, the difference in benefits, just like what we did. Only thing I will write to focus here. When it is a negative externality, the market tends to overproduce. When there is a negative externality, people do not internalize the cost, they produce more. So the market equilibrium, Q1, is far more than Q star. When there is a positive externality, people do not consider the social benefit. They only talk about the marginal benefit, personal benefit. And the system ends up producing less. And that is why Q1 is less than Q star. Q star is socially optimal. So if you want to have a socially optimal scenario, if you leave it to the market will not fully produce. The market will not produce. Market will produce much below the social optimal. So a clear case in this situation that comes directly as a fallout of these discussions that we're having. If there is a negative externality, you tax the system so that producer bring back their production. So if you leave it to the market will produce Q1. So tax it such that the market auto adjusts to the social optimal Q star. So as simple as that, the moment you have positive externality like education, you just add subsidy. So you give subsidy. Subsidy is what? Negative of tax. So your marginal cost curve comes down so that the system which was initially underproducing at Q1 will move to the social optimal Q star. And that is why this very simple two graphs will tell you why there is high taxes in cigarettes, tobacco, petroleum, and subsidies in healthcare education. Because the government wants to correct. But the problem is, so far we have looked at in a partial view of the system. So I don't think it's already 10:50. So in 5 minutes, it does not make any sense to start the public good part. So I'll stop sharing here. And we have 5-6 minutes. We can discuss if you have any questions. Because it's already like almost 2 hours. We continue.
Sir, I had a follow-up to that orange example you have given. Someone is eating an orange in the bus.
Okay, Ashok. Yes.
Yeah, if suppose I'm traveling with him, the person is eating an orange opposite to me.
Mhm.
So sometimes I feel like I want to eat orange too. So I will try for even if it is orange or chocolate or anything he is drinking or something
Yes,
like that.
obviously.
Yeah, if someone is doing that in front of me, I will tend to buy things and I will also tend to eat something, even if I
Yeah.
am not hungry now.
Yeah. This is
Can
not
that be?
externality. This is not
Yeah,
externality. There is a separate name to it. It's called what we call. Uh, I am forgetting the term myself. Oh, it's like demonstration effect.
okay.
It's like your friend has an iPhone,
Yeah,
and now you need an iPhone.
yeah. Even if I don't require it, sometimes
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
children behavior, we want it like, and it can cost us, no, sir. So I want
Absolutely,
to.
Ashok. I completely agree. Anyone having an poached steak in front of me makes me feel hungry all the time. I understand the problem completely. I completely agree with you.
I thought it will be some
No,
negative.
no, it is not externality because look, it is neither. It is making you to enter the. It is forcing you to enter the market and be a participant of that market.
Oh yes.
It is not externality. This is what we call demonstration. I do not know. There was. You must not. No. There is no way you can remember that television ad. in fact, I was very, very young. Like I was a kid myself. So there used to be a television called Onida, Onita. And
Yeah, I do.
yeah, so their caption was owner's pride, neighbor's envy. And that is exactly the demonstration effect you're talking about. So I have a four-wheeler, I like it, I'm driving it for some time. But I had certain problems. I gave it to the garage. So I borrowed my friend's car, which is a better model. After driving it for 1 week, I said, okay, no, my old car is bad. This one is good. So I want to sell off my old car and get a new car. Pure case of demonstration. My friend is forcing me to purchase a new car. So again, I did not want to be a part of the automobile market right now. But his car, his brand new good car, is somehow instigating me to enter the market. Yeah, that's the case of oranges. Yes, absolutely. But that's not externality.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Sir, I believe that it can be an externality because it is like the product which I'm using right now is acting like a disutility for me.
No.
Earlier it was, but because of envy, it is acting right now.
No, it is not externality because look, why? Look, remember the definition. Your action affecting me and the price that you are paying does not capture my cost or benefit. Yes, Abhijit. Yes, Abhijit.
I mistakenly opened my mic.
And you, okay, no issues. Yathartha, hopefully I could answer the question that you asked.
Yes, sir. I was able to understand. Thank you.
So any other queries?